The Our-Lads Football Network for a Thursday evening on EOFN tonight, because we can call it EOFN tonight. Jets FM on EOFN. And I should probably start these Jet shows off with the famous Jet chant. Maybe I'll do that at one of these next shows. We'll update those. Jan Levine joining me. How's it going, Jan?
Good. How are you, Greg?
I am doing fine. We talked not too long ago about, we went over the depth chart, what to expect at camp. And one of the things that we talked about was the possibility of Denzel Mims getting traded. And it had nothing to do with his performance. I think it actually did have to do, though, a combination of things. And one of them, for sure, is the fact that, as we mentioned, and I think fans most fans are pretty aware now, is this Brownlee kid. I think he's for real. I think he's. I think this trade means he's making the team.
I mean, of all intents and purposes, I would say he definitely has a leg up on making the team. They didn't get much from Mims. I mean, they got potentially a spread between a 6th and a 7th, which honestly surprised me. I thought there might be. Look, if you would have gotten a 5th or a 6th straight up, we wouldn't have loved it, but at least it's something. But to get a 6th and have to give back a 7th, pretty much is an indication that they just wanted to try to garner anything. And, having a 2nd-round pick go for just that little value is an indication just where he stood within the organization and what their view of him was. And it's another wide receiver that we will be watching elsewhere. I'm sure a lot of us will be watching Elijah Moore in Cleveland to kind of see what he does and seeing if Denzel Mims can do anything for Detroit.
Well, the good thing is that as long as the Jets do what they're supposed to do, it's not going to be like the old days where we're going to be a bad team looking at players that got away. It's going to be about, we're doing good. It's good that they're doing good too. Good for them. So, but yes, we will be following them for sure. Best of luck, because they all need. And look, what's the common denominator though for both of those players that you just mentioned? They both asked for a trade.
Yep,
and
they did.
I want to segue that because we have some topics we're talking about here. And this is another one, is another player that was disgruntled. And it's not really being talked about too much, a little bit, but not too much. But that's Mekhi Becton. And he's already off to a little bit of a slow start. We're already hearing the eyes, knees not ready yet. Yep. I'm starting to get a feeling. So every
funny.
One of these guys that's asked for a trade and that said negative things, they're all gone.
So it's funny. Somebody on Twitter yesterday, I don't remember what it was, and I don't remember. I don't know if it was somebody wrote about using the resources that Rodgers has freed up, right? And I had written that you're thinking Dalvin Cook, and I'm thinking offensive line. I mean, to me, right? We've talked a little bit about what's the need on this team and the imperativeness and importance of keeping Rodgers upright and healthy. And now that Rodgers, and we'll go into it, freed up some salary, and we'll go into the Cook coming in this weekend. But to me, I'm scouring and looking to see if there's a disgruntled or an available solid right tackle offensive lineman out there where we can utilize some of the funds that Mr. Rodgers has nicely freed up with his restructuring of his contract.
Yeah, I don't know about, obviously we're not going to get into any of the potential players that could be on rosters at this point in time. But as far as free agency, you're not going to find anybody worth really mentioning. So yeah, it would have to be a player. But look, here's the thing too. A lot's going to depend on. Look, I don't think there's any way they're trading Becton at this point. I think what it's going to be is, because the same thing happened with each of these players. They weren't traded right away. They were all basically given a chance. Nothing really happened. and they were gone. And that's what I think is going to happen to Becton. They're going to give him a chance, especially because he's such a valuable part of the team and he was such a high pick. They're going to give him a chance, and at some point, if they don't like what they see, like let's say he's healthy and he's playing a little bit, but he's not dominating, and Dwayne Brown is healthy and it's the beginning of the season, and Max Mitchell's looking good, and even Billy Turner's capable. Before that trade deadline, who knows? Maybe we'll see something happen, or at the very least, because remember, of course, he could be gone, and we wouldn't get anything for him if he becomes a free agent. So we'll keep an eye on that.
This is part of also, we talked a little bit about going way back when, right? The possible consequence of when they traded from 13 to 15 to get Rodgers. And we said, part of the only concern they may have is if there's a player that they really wanted at 13 that now they move down to 15 that they can't get, right? And we know that Pittsburgh slid up one slot ahead of them to get the offensive lineman that we all thought the Jets might have wanted, right? So there's truly always a impact or trickle-down impact of moving down. And Douglas didn't necessarily opt back to try to trade back up. And New England was more than happy to put hit the screw the Jets button by trading with Pittsburgh to allow them to trade up to get the offensive lineman, which may have filled the slot. Obviously not necessarily known 100%, but one of those things we talked about when the trade was made is, would there be any impact for them moving from 13 to 15 in terms of player selection at the time?
Well, right now, I got to tell you, I don't really think they need it. I have confidence that Max Mitchell is going to do just fine. I think it's all about Dwayne Brown. I think it's about whether Dwayne Brown is going to stay healthy.
Yep, it's right. And like I said, part of that is if you can somehow make a deal to get some depth. Look, perfect storm, no, it'll never happen. But if there was a way for them to figure a way for trade with to get Zach Martin, who's really not happy with his contract in Dallas and is kind of holding out, that would be perfect storm. But you know as well as I do, that's like basically a
Zach's
1
a guard,
in a million shot for something like that to happen.
Oh, he's a guard.
Right, but still, I'm saying is,
I mean, if we do that, you move Vera Tucker to right tackle.
Right.
But again, the thing is because look, we like, and I think we trust Max Mitchell at right tackle. Dwayne Brown is the only really solid left tackle we would have left on the roster. I don't think any of this is happening this season. This is just something to keep an eye on, or at least until the trade deadline. So I don't think anything's happening right away. I just think it's interesting and something to keep an eye on, because chances are, unless he starts opening day or at some point and solidifies himself and is the man and he's really happy, he's probably not going to be re-signed. I just don't see it happening. So we'll see. All right. You mentioned open cap space. So originally there was talk, rumors, Dalvin Cook. Could the Vikings trade Dalvin Cook? Would the Jets be interested? Absolutely not. There was no way the Jets were trading the Minnesota Vikings anything for Dalvin Cook. Okay, now he's free. What about Dalvin Cook? Well, week ago, not a lot of cap space, or not as much. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, there's more cap space. I still don't know. What I question is whether or not this is just as much a screw to the Dolphins as it is as, of course, this would be a nice guy to have on a 1-year deal. We can be really cautious with Breece. We don't have to overload him because, hey, what happens if Breece gets injured again? And we're trying to win a Super Bowl. Do we really feel that we've got the running game? I don't know. I think they're okay there, but now they've got extra cap space. Why not bring him in and make the Dolphins sweat?
No, I agree. Look, there was a lot of rumors about New England potentially being interested, but Ramondre Stevenson is clearly the number one back there. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about the Dolphins, and that had been the rumor for a while. He was going to go there. Cook somewhat put the kibosh on either one of them, depending if you believe him that he didn't have an offer from either New England or Miami.
Well, he wants to go to Miami. Everybody knows that.
Jets.
It's just a
right?
matter of whether or
But
not the Dolphins are going to give him what he wants.
correct. So Cook coming in, look, nothing bad about making them sweat, nothing untoward about seeing as to whether or not the kind of fit he'd be a good idea to meet face to face to get a sense of his contract demands and whether or not that even with the additional cap space it fits in. As you said, you can ease Hall back in a little bit. You can probably free up, 12 to 15 touches a game maybe for Cook. Then you can have a nice 1-2 combination with Hall, presuming he's healthy, or enable him to work his way back. But part of that is what the contract demands are.
Would you give him
What
a
kind of
2-year
message?
deal?
What's that?
Would you give him a 2-year deal?
Depends on how much you believe in Hall, right?
Oh, well,
If
come
you
on.
really
What do
believe,
you mean his health? But at this
right?
point, and I don't think they're lying at this point, and players come back from these injuries. So at this point,
Yeah.
I think I think everybody's confident that he's going to be back. So you tell me, if they're confident he's going to be back, do you give him a 2-year deal?
I prefer a 1-year deal, but if the only way to sign him is 2 years, I think a lot of that depends on the cap implications, especially next year as opposed to this year, right? Because Rodgers moved a lot of his cap. I mean, you could keep pushing cap space,
Sure.
obviously, down the road and down the road and down the road. You just need to be smart in terms of how you do it. And to me, maintaining a lot of cap space in case an offensive lineman becomes available that you need to make a move for is almost more paramount to me than getting Dalvin Cook at this point in time.
Yeah, the thing is that player out there? I don't know. I mean,
We don't know now, but by the trade deadline, he might be.
Yeah, I would at that point. Yeah, I mean, look, we've said it. I think it's it's totally not a need. But hey, we got the cap. See, that's the thing. We got the cap space. It's not a need, but it's definitely going to help the team. We're going to be better with him than without him, especially if he goes to the Dolphins. But not if we have to give him now a second year,
right?
And that he's definitely under the contract going to be here next year. Not one of those 2-year deals where we can, get out of it and he's gone next year. I'm with you. I can't do it. I'd rather, like you said, I'd rather the cap space for because we also talked about the secondary. What if there was an injury in the secondary and we needed a cap space to make a trade to bring in someone in the secondary? So I'd rather have that cap space during the season before the deadline for positions of absolute need.
Agreed. Same here. I mean, like I said, I think he would be viewed as I know the term is going to be weird, a luxury. It's kind of hard to kind of call a back as good as Dalvin Cook a luxury. This is obviously clearly dependent on how healthy Hall is. If you believe Hall is fully healthy and will be ready to go, and you're not concerned about limiting his touches, or we'll use the NBA term of load management, then you don't necessarily bring him in. If you do think that he augments your offense and you have a level of concern about Hall, even if it's small, then I think you have to consider the strong likelihood of bringing him in. But 1 year to maintain your cap space for the future is paramount, unless you can find a one with almost like an opt-out where you can get out of the contract without a material cap space hit.
Jan's going to disappear for a couple of seconds, and then he's going to be back. Just we'll see him pop back into his chair in just a minute. He's taking care of some personal things. Hey, it's late. It's Thursday night, everybody, and this was the only time that we could really put this together. Let's take a look. I'll tell you what. I'm going to pop up. Well, there's the depth chart, the rlads.com depth chart. I think I'm going to have to email the office because Joe Tippmann is not the starting center for the Jets. It's Connor McGovern. So I'll have to do something about that. And really, when you look at the depth chart, you might go, "Oh, look at the guard situation," because Wes Schweitzer is really more of a center. But yeah, he can play guard, of course. The fact is, it's the offensive line in general has got some issues, and we're not talking about tackle either, or only tackle. But we saw what happened last year with injuries. Injuries are going to occur. You don't want the type of injuries, the rash of injuries we had last year. But again, you never know where it's going to come from, which is why having the cap space is going to be really, really important. Now, let's take a look at. So, Dalvin Cook. What have you been hearing about Dalvin Cook? Jet fans. You're in New York. I'm not.
It's interesting. It's an interesting buzz. Can't say they've heard a ton, right? I mean, obviously the news broke today. Most part in Twitter, obviously you get the Jet haters, which love to be saying that they're going to go nowhere. I think most Jets fans have the same view that we've kind of talked about, right? He clearly is a solid back. Showed a couple of signs, a little bit of starting to slightly slow down last year. They wanted to get Alexander Madison, more involved in Minnesota. A little surprised they made the move now because I do think Cook still can be a bell cow back to a
He's
certain
got a couple
extent,
more
especially
years.
if you
Yeah.
utilize him properly. I look. I think a lot of it is, I think everybody had the same view yesterday of, we have cap space.
Yeah.
Who's out there? We all know who's out there. It's not too hard to put one, A and B together and go, there's probably some kind of linkage. And then the news clearly broke this morning that Cook's going to be in. And not only is Cook going to be in, but he's pretty much spending almost the entire time that he's going to be in New York with the Jets.
Yeah. Look, NFL rumors. New York Jets are expected to sign Dalvin Cook, barring any last-minute changes. Yeah, I'm not so sure how much we're going to put into NFL rumors, but I don't know who JPA football.
He's been doing a bunch of stuff, but Tony Pauline has some a decent amount of intel, right? So I would say that if he's reporting that he'll sign and there's enough smoke and fire here, then it's pretty clear that barring, as written there, a surprise, Cook will be moving from the purple and yellow and white to the green and white.
Look, all we're saying is if there are injuries later on down the road when the season starts at positions of absolute need because there's some issues with depth, bigger issues at depth than at running back, make sure you have the money. That's it. And if that's the case,
I don't think Cook.
How can we not love this possibility of bringing him in? It's a no-brainer.
Well, I think, as you said, the question is how much money is Cook going to get? And given
and
what
we can sit here and go over that, but we'll find out.
Given what we've seen so far in the free agent market for running backs, I mean, let's look at Saquon, right? Who's clearly going to probably get a lot more than Cook based upon usage and impact on the team, and he didn't. Would you say? I'll throw out a number at you. If Cook wanted $6 million a year, signing him to that?
Based on what they have? Again, you're saying a year. So for 1 year, absolutely.
Let's say it had to be a 2-year contract.
No. I don't want Dalvin Cook for 2 years.
How high would you go on a 1-year deal? Would you go 1 year? Would you go 1 year, $8 million?
Again, only if I knew that I had enough money to add necessary depth, not a trade necessarily. Again, we're not talking about bringing in a superstar at offensive line. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about just have money so you're not picking up garbage when you're trying to win a championship because you spent money on Dalvin Cook. That's all I'm saying. Whatever that number is. So, but 6 makes sense based on what I've seen. 8, now we're getting tricky. That I really need to. I don't know what the books are, but yeah, I just and again, the thing with even if he comes back a second year and is guaranteed to be here a second year, same thing. Because I think it's going to be harder next year. I just think the cap situation will definitely be harder next year, and I just that's the tricky thing. I don't know, because it's also potentially stunting the growth of Breece Hall. And I want Breece Hall to get the ball as much as he can, as much as his body can take it. I want him, and I don't want it being taken away by someone that is 5 or 6 years older than he is and doesn't have the giddy up that he has.
If Hall is healthy, Cook is a heck of an insurance policy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So all depends. Big difference again between insurance policy and is the guy going to somehow interfere with your salary cap? situation.
Well, if you think about it, right? If he went to New England, they've got Stevenson there. It's not as
yeah,
if
if he
he'd
can
be
go to New
there.
England, nobody cares.
No, right.
It's
But I'm saying is, I'm
Miami.
thinking about right. If he
It's
goes to
about
Miami,
Miami.
Mostert is a pretty darn good back in his own right.
Yeah, but he's not Dalvin Cook.
No, I agree.
Yeah, we don't want him to. I'm telling you right now, I know this. Half of this is they're screwing the Dolphins. I don't think after what happened with Hill last year, this is what they're doing. They're like, we're not going to let this happen again. And this is what's happening. We are going to not only bring him in to help the team, but we are going to screw the Dolphins while we're at it. So that's how I can. I'm 100% believe that this is because, and I think that's what you're going to read in the coming days. If they sign him, you're going to start reading about how much screwing the Dolphins impacted this deal.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Well, again, both of us have no problems with that.
No, absolutely not. Love it. So let's take a look at those Jets throwback uniforms. And
so it's funny that they posted the Nike ones on, I think, the Jets website on one of them. And I looked, and I am interested in getting one because I actually had gotten a Klecko one years ago that a friend of mine had got me that I think was a knockoff that didn't look particularly good. But the fun part is the Nike ones are only heat sealed the numbers. They weren't selling the ones with the sewn on. I'm like, why the hell do I want heat sealed numbers? They're gonna fall off in a while. But they're good looking, and I like the helmets also.
Oh, the helmets are. I wish we had those helmets right now. Because we even talked about that when the Jets had their new uniforms. That was the one part about the uniform that we were like, kind of, this helmet's better.
And I was very impressed. I like the hype video also that they used to reveal it.
With the Klecko and the Sack Exchange.
And Gastineau and Lines. The only one I didn't see necessarily fully in there was Salam in the video.
Yeah, well.
If you're going to show the Sack Exchange, you got to show all four of them.
Well, there they are right there.
Right, but if you watch the whole video, the highlights of the players, you saw Klecko with a sack, you saw Gastineau with a sack, you saw Lines on the sideline. You didn't see Salam technically making a play either.
Let's see. Yeah.
There's Lions, right?
Good old
days.
Gastineau. Shea Stadium.
Right. You saw Klecko. Find Salam in the video.
There he is.
On the sideline. That's it. That's it. No plays.
Dang.
It's the first thing I noticed was no plays.
No plays. But at least he's there. Yeah, those were the days.
Shea
Stadium. All right, so there's the uniforms, and we're gonna see them. I'm really surprised that they're doing it week 1, but that's awesome. So what did they say? Week 1 and the Chiefs.
The game. Week 1 and week 4 against Chiefs, and I think the week 4 is when they have the Ring of Honor ceremony, if I remember correctly. They're honoring somebody that night.
Klecko?
I'm thinking maybe Klecko that they're honoring that night.
Probably.
Sunday night game against Kansas City.
And then they have one more game they can use it.
Yeah.
They just, I guess, they'll hold off and decide later in the year when they want to use it. So, all right, well, there you go. And look, it's going to be the other thing that's just driving me up the wall already, and we're only like a week in, is it's like you hear some of these analysts talk. It's like it's like they ripped the Jets only because it's like let me put it this way. they talk about how the Jets are being talked about so much. They're the media's darling team kind of thing. But yet, they're talking about it. If you don't want to talk about it, then don't talk about it. You're helping that by talking about it, by putting another video out talking about them. So don't talk about them. But they're jealous. That's what it is. And I heard one guy, I forget who it was, but it was just so bad. And he's ripping Aaron Rodgers for the contract deal, for leaving all that money on the table. Basically slamming Rodgers. Like, how can you do this? How can you leave money on the table like that? I mean, that's somebody that obviously has no idea what it takes to win a championship.
Does anybody tell him what Tom Brady did for years?
Yes, exactly.
And B, it's not only media people who are ripping them.
Oh, I can imagine.
Well, a certain coach today had a little bit
you mean Peyton?
Commentary. Mr. Peyton.
That'll be a good. When are we playing the Broncos?
That'll be a little blackboard material before week 5. That's for sure.
Oh, it's week 5?
Week 5, not week 4. Sally got it wrong. It's week 5. Because week 4 is Kansas City.
Okay.
But yes, Mr. Payton decided to, and again, it's not the Jets who are hyping it. They didn't even want to be on Hard Knocks.
Yes.
Right? They came out pretty vociferously. They didn't want to be on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, and the thing is, and look, bottom line is, whether you believe that or not, the fact is now that they are, you take advantage of it. That's it. Take advantage of it. And we still don't know when the first. Now, when's the first game? Is it next week?
Yeah.
So
a week from Saturday.
It's on a Saturday.
It coincides with the Hall of Fame ceremony.
A week from Saturday. Okay. So. Yeah, that should be fun. We'll obviously put a video out and talk about that.
And then Hard Knocks is the 8th.
Oh, you know when it debuts? It debuts on the 8th.
The 8th.
Okay. Let me see if I have the. I don't know why it wasn't in my history, but let me see here if I can get the right one. And so one of those guys too that as a career, but it's just your typical because this is what we've talked about for years about some of these media guys, especially the veterans, is you got to pinpoint when they say the stupidest things, and when they do, that's when you have to call them out, or you have to realize that they just don't know what they're talking about. And this guy, and I just can't find it, but this guy has been around a long time. He's a writer, and just to slam Aaron Rodgers for taking less money is just all you need to know about whether or not somebody understands football. So good for Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who just can't stand Aaron Rodgers already too.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's part of it. Look, in full disclosure, I wouldn't say either one of us were huge fans of Rodgers. I wasn't a huge fan of Rodgers in Green Bay. I thought he was a petulant superstar, right? But, and I'm not sure if necessarily the view has 100% changed, but I will say what's been most impressive is he has made every effort and then some to fit in, right? He's taken Wilson under his wing and had conversations with him. On the sidelines, you can see he said all the right things in the press conferences. He made an effort and was at every single OTA. And he noted himself, he said, look, the OTAs and the offseason stuff is for the young kids to learn the system. But he said it was important for him this year to be around, to help to be a sounding board and to provide advice and to learn the people and learn the organization and everything else, right? So he's done, all the right things to date. Clearly, what matters more so is the proof is on the pudding is when we get on the field, but off the field and all the other stuff, he has been the perfect addition.
Absolutely.
Probably even better than we would have expected to date.
Yeah, we were definitely a little bit concerned. Like, how is this going to go? Not that there wasn't hope and there wasn't expectations. There were, but yeah, could not be more happy with how it's all going. I mean, every time he's talking, ever since he's been here, he's got a smile on his face. He's got something that he talks about that he's just having such a good time, and that's what you want. You can't ask for anything more. And now he restructures his contract for more money to make the team better. I found the video. I don't know if you can hear it or not. I'm going to play it here in a second. Do you remember who's this guy? Rob Parker?
Well, Chris Broussard, he writes for I think it's Chris Broussard used to write for ESPN.
Yeah. This Rob Parker guy.
Mostly basketball. That was what he was known for, was basketball.
Well, I'm not sure about Parker, but I mean, this guy's just bad. So let's see here.
Ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Why would you do that? And the Jets who have won
exactly what since 1969? That's who you're turning it over. I've ever heard.
Listen to this
over and over and over and over again. Why? It doesn't.
Can you hear that?
I can hear it.
You can. Okay.
Makes sense. That doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl because Aaron Rodgers turned in $35 million. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Why would you do that? And the Jets who have won exactly what since 1969? That's who you're turning it over to? Who picked Zach Wilson as a quarterback and Sam Darnold? Those are the people over and over and over that you're giving up money so that they could figure out who they're going to have on the team to help you?
Let's forget about the fact that he just drafted the offensive and defensive players of the year last year. Let's forget that. Not remember or recall that. You're gonna just put a one position, and he filled it with Aaron Rodgers, by the way, Hall of Fame quarterback. So I guess he doesn't know what he's doing, Joe Douglas. So that's what he's criticizing there. That makes no sense, his argument. Like, he's for real. He's upset, Jan. The dude is upset.
With all due respect, I really don't take what Chris Broussard and Rob Parker, when it comes to football, say.
Look at this. They got 188,000 subscribers. They had 17,000 people watching this guy.
It's Fox Sports Radio. I mean, it's not like a little rinky-dink organization.
I know. And these are the people they have on there.
Well, just because they're on there doesn't mean they're all of them particularly good.
No, it does not. It does not. Okay, so we will be back definitely right after the Hall of Fame game. Not sure when about we'll do that, but we'll be back around then. And actually, it wouldn't be bad either. One of these preseason games might be pretty fun for like a quarter or a half quarter. I know how busy you are, where we actually, watch the game. Obviously, we can't put it on for people to see, but you and I can talk about the game while it's going on. Just kind of chat.
Good.
That might be fun. So we'll see if we can put that together. We got 4. So we got 4. We got the extra game. So maybe we can figure out a way. Maybe we'll get lucky with our schedule, and we'll be able to put something like that together. But we'll definitely be on to talk about the Hall of Fame game, and then if anything else happens of that's newsworthy. And look, Jan is not going to be able to be on all the time. He's got a busy schedule. He's got family commitments, but I'm going to be on as much as I can. I know Matt O'Leary, again, he does a great job. Check out his channel. We'll have him on definitely sometime soon. It's going to be a fun season. Jan, I appreciate you making some time to stop in here and talk some Jet football.
Always a pleasure. Looking forward to it. The season is literally, well, let me rephrase that. Football in general is right around the corner. The season, we got a little bit of time still to go. But the only other news today was Garrett Wilson had a little bit of a sprained ankle. Supposedly it's nothing too serious. But of course, anytime you see, Garrett Wilson leaves the field, start to get a little concerned. But
could have been worse. Could have been Joe Burrow.
Is nothing material. And Joe Burrow, fortunately, the injury sounds like it's not too bad, a strained calf muscle. But clearly, most of the talk with Burrow has been what kind of contract is Burrow going to sign now that Justin Herbert has signed his big contract.
Big one. Big. But the
5,
Bengals will pay him.
262.5.
That's what the Bengals do. They pay they keep their players, and they're definitely going to keep Joe Burrow.
He's going to get paid. The only question is how many years and how much.
Yeah. Well, it's probably going to be the top. It's got to be the top.
Rumors I've heard I've heard something. If Herbert got 5 years, you could see Burrow getting 7 and 300 or 6 and 300 plus. Easily.
Good for him. Good for him.
They also need to keep money because T. Higgins is a free agent also, so they need to keep some money to sign him as well.
Well, that's why. That's why because they're not going to be able to. Who's the other receiver there? Higgins.
Chase.
Yeah. See, I do not see them keeping all three. I can't see it.
So I was listening to Boomers. Happened to be listening to Boomer this morning, and he's saying his view is that the NFL and the NBA salary caps are going to rise. He didn't use the term exponentially, but rather significantly over the next 10 years or so. It's going to just with all the contracts, with all the TV deals and everything else, and everything else. His view is that salary cap is going to rise. So associated with that, as the cap rises, clearly there's more room to sign teams players, and this may open room for guys like Chase and everybody else to be signed.
Here's the thing, though, and that's I think Boomers and I hope. Look, we all hope it doesn't happen, but I think we're already seeing it, and we're seeing it. It's going on we're seeing it. It's happening in Hollywood. The economy, if the economy goes to the way where it's going, I think that's kind of thinking is old school, because they're not going to have all this money while everybody else is like in a recession, or maybe even worse. It's not going to happen that way. So I hope he's right. I hope we don't have one of those really bad times, but I wouldn't be looking at the next 10 years going, oh yeah, contracts and this and that. No, I think it's going to be the exact opposite. Now I could see the NFL, because the NFL is God when it comes to sports, but the NBA, no, don't put the NBA with the NFL. That's
well, I mean, the NFL is interesting. Like, if somebody would have told you 10 years ago that the Washington Commanders would go for $6 billion, you would have said, I'm sorry, what? And
hey, man,
sure enough, he got $6 billion, Snyder. I mean, thank God he's out, but he got $6 billion.
To be the worst owner in football, he got $5 billion for it. Yep. Gotta love the NFL.
Not a bad deal. Yep.
All right. Well, yes, we'll have a lot to talk about. Let's keep our fingers crossed with that injury. See, the funny thing is, when Salah said, he remarked about the injury, first thing that popped in my head when he said, it's okay. It's like, dude, don't comment on injuries. I don't want to hear it from you. You know how many times he has said everything's okay or it's nothing big, and then the next day the guy's out for the year. I don't want to hear coach talk about injuries. I don't want to hear it.
He's gone to New York. He's gone to the New York Mets School of reporting injuries.
Oh, why they don't?
Because every time they report something a day later, it turns out
is that
to
what
be
happens?
eons worse.
Yeah, you see. So don't do it. I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm glad everything seemed like it was okay. But this is what happened. You saw Burrow. It just.
Yep.
It was almost like Zach's injury. It looked almost exactly like Zach's injury. He's just running and then he pulls something. So, all right. Anyway, that's their problem.
Yep. As somebody who has torn his calf muscle literally stepping out of his house, I know literally anything can happen and can tweak it. So.
Wow. Okay. How long did you? What were you on?
I hobbled. I was on my way to a business trip at 4:30 in the morning. I hobbled through 2 airports with a torn calf muscle before I got to Arizona, and then went to the urgent care and ER and was on crutches and a splint for about 6 weeks.
Wow. But you made your meeting?
I was there for the week.
There you go.
On crutches.
See? That's why you make the big bucks, right?
Yeah, clearly. I'm a gamer.
Right. Hey, we need those.
Yep.
Or your company needs them.
Yep.
Thanks, Jan. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good, Greg.